Proportional Response. Book 1. Chapter 21, Part 5. Facing Hope and Fear. Luma looked at the bull's face on her command chair screen and considered the phrasing of his polite request to have fire control routed to his people. Something in his tone made her quite sure that, despite the word please, she'd pay for it if she didn't obey. It only took a moment for her to make the arrangements.
You should have firing control now, Bull Commander. Do you have any other requests? Thank you for your prompt and efficient cooperation, Station Commander. Please understand I am not intending to usurp your authority on this station. Indeed, I can't afford to. I am going to have my hands full trying to secure this place. I do have a few other small requests, however. I am about to move myself and a few others into your station security office so that I have access to internal comms and sensors. My first order of business is going to be to secure or eliminate all Sultans and their allies on this station. I doubt there will be an issue with your security chief, but you will be on hand to intervene if there is.
She nodded.
Good. Could you also send a feed of all external sensors to the security office? I want to be able to keep an eye on battle outside and make sure I can coordinate external fire if needed.
She nodded again, not sure if she could trust her voice. Her hands shook so much she feared she'd even be able to close the channel. He continued.
Thank you. One last thing, please lock all docking clamps until the crisis has passed, whether there is a ship currently moored or not. You still have control of civilian traffic. Keep an eye on the fighting and try to direct them out of this system as expeditiously as possible. Do not send them towards the planet, and for the sake of open fields and green grass, do not let anyone near this station, no matter who they are or what they say. Do you understand?
She nodded again and clamped down on her emotions so she could respond.
I understand and obey, Bullmaster. I do have one request. Could you station some of your bulls outside our blast doors?
He shook his head.
My men are going to be far too busy digging out these lizards and whatever friends they have on board. I will promise, however, that if any enemy even starts moving in your direction, we will reach your door before they do. This is going to be a hard time for you, Commander, and for your people. Let them know that they have some of the best, hardest bulls in Kothro space protecting them. We know our duty, and we will fulfill it. Bullmaster out.
The line cut, and she looked up. Every eye, except for Comms 1, had turned to her. She motioned for them to get back to work, made sure the Bullmaster had everything he asked for, then turned anxious eyes to the plot. A few hours later, the entire volume of space under her responsibility had changed completely. The few civilian ships still in the system had their FTL engines redlined on the shortest vector which took them away while avoiding the likely combat zones. The Zoltan ships had clustered at 2 points at the edges of the hylopores, where solar wind and the tiny effects of the sun would force their FTL to go from interstellar to in-system speeds, waiting for the 2 largest clusters of incoming ships. She heard pulse guns go off outside the blast doors again, some Zoltans wanting access to her sensors, no doubt. The Zoltan voter, High, whatever he was, in charge of the fleet had tried to force a comms line to her after she refused to speak with his flunkies about providing them data. She hadn't known that some bulls trained in cyber warfare, but she felt very grateful for the results of that training. She took a look at the ship's positions with the practiced eye of someone used to controlling large volumes of void space. She didn't know the first thing about battle. The closest thing she normally saw of that was the occasional pirate who got overeager and kept chasing someone after they hit the heliopause. She did understand ships and their movements, however, and could appreciate the precision with which the 2 Zoltan fleets formed their line of battle. Both Zoltan fleets had arrayed themselves the same way. They looked like several walls of ships, with each wall consisting of a larger number of smaller ships than the wall behind it. She zoomed in and could see that the formations allowed the smaller ships to provide cover for the larger ships behind, but left small gaps that the larger ships could fire through. I don't see how that would do them any good. If the smaller ships can fire, then... The formations then began to rotate, and each wall of ships did a strange sort of choreographed dance. The front wall had ships constantly moving forward and backwards, just a little, so that no one ship would be taking all the punishment all the time, and the gaps that the ships behind could fire through kept changing. The layers behind that just moved in their rotation to match the ships in front. She could see, after a fashion, how such a formation could make it hard for an enemy to hit the larger, more important ships. They have to have a lot of computers helping them with the navigation. She looked for the massive capital ship which belonged to the High Jerkoff, wondering which formation it might be in. She found it wasn't in any formation, but sat in a spot between the two fleets, well clear, presumably, of any of the threats. She took a better look at her sensor readings from outside the system, then looked back at the Zoltan formation, and frowned. There are two pairs of incoming fleets. Each pair has a large group and a smaller group, but the lizards are arrayed as if the smaller group isn't there. It seems as if that smaller group in each incoming fleet will be able to simply go around the wall that has been built. I don't understand why they would. The muffled sounds of another firefight filtered through the blast doors. At the same moment, the comprehension dawned on her. The Zoltans can't see the smaller fleet on their sensors. I have a full solar system sensor suite at my disposal, and orders of magnitude more processing power available to me than they do. They can't see the shadow fleets. A small smile began to play across her lips. The Zoltans are going to get completely wrecked. She heard more noise from the doors and what sounded like an explosion. A few moments later, a tiny red spot appeared on the blast doors. Her blood froze in her veins. The Zoltans can't be allowed access to this data. The humans, it has to be the humans, obviously know the Zoltan sensors can't detect their plan, and they seem to expect that we will hold our sensors safe. She suddenly felt cold and detached, almost like she was controlling her body by remote shock. I am in a state of shock. She shook her head to try to clear it, but it didn't help. It didn't matter either. One look at the slowly growing red spot on the blast door told her what she had to do. She hit a few buttons and called up the Bullmaster. His image came up instantly, but she could see that he had his attention anywhere but on her as he spoke gruffly.
Yes, I know that the Zoltans are trying to burn through the blast door to the bridge. The other exit is clear, and there are no enemies in that direction. I am trying to direct more bulls to you, but...
Luma cut him off with a shake of her head and explained what she could see on the sensors.
So you see, Bullmaster, I can't leave. We can't allow this station to fall into enemy hands, no matter the cost.
The Bullmaster's eyes grew large for a moment, then he huffed. At first, she thought him afraid, then recognized a sort of grudging respect in his gaze.
You are correct, Station Commander. Thankfully for you and yours, my men have control of engineering. We can blow the station from there, if it comes to that. I will know shortly whether my men were...
She held up a hand to him. It took everything she had, more than she thought she'd ever have in her, to keep her voice intelligible.
Thank you, Bullmaster, but I will not be leaving my post until the humans have freed us, or my seat disintegrates beneath me. I do not doubt the courage, nor the capabilities of your men. Far from it, in fact. I have seen bulls train. It is required for all station commanders to know what they will be relying on if everything hits the mud. However, we cannot risk the Zoltans getting onto this bridge. I will stay.
She rose and called out to her crew.
The emergency exit is open. The Bullmaster has informed me that he is attempting to dislodge the Zoltans on the other side of the blast door, but may not make it. Take a good look at that plot, everyone. We can't let the Zoltans get that data feed. I will destroy this station if I must to keep it from them.
Someone, she couldn't tell who, spoke up.
How? These stations are designed to be stable and nearly indestructible. There is no self-destruct mechanism.
She nodded.
Correct. There are, however, a few flaws in the design that can be exploited. If you have the correct authorizations and overrides, which I have, I will not ask any of you to stay with me. I can do what has to be done myself, and we have little left to do until the shooting stops. You have all done admirably, and I will be sending out a blanket commendation in the next few minutes. So, go, get to the escape pods. Those incoming ships are human, they have to be, and you know what that means. You won't be in those pods long, and will be home with your loving families before you know it. Go, and if I do not survive, think of me in fields of green grass.
No one moved for a moment, then someone bolted for the emergency door. Several others followed, but she noted with pride, even those who moved with haste did not move with undue haste. and made a reasonably orderly exit. After a few moments, she looked around at her empty. No, wait, not empty.
Onsen, that was an order. Get out of here. Can't do that, man. Now listen here, young lady.
The young officer turned to face her squarely.
Commander, I wanted to join the balls. Women do from time to time, you know. The changes are harder for us, but those who can endure them tend to do well. I feel the call to protect my people, to stand between them and harm. I feel it now, and I will heed it. You can order me all you want to. If we survive this, you can put me up on charges if you want. I don't think the bulls will care. If we don't, then...
She shrugged enigmatically.
Besides, I think I know how those weaknesses you want to use work, and it will be a lot easier for you if you have another pair of hands helping push the buttons, assuming it comes to that.
She stared at the youth for some moments, cursing the woman silently for a terminal case of courage, but contented herself with a gruff nod. The youngster turned back to her station, and Bloomer sat to wait.